Now let's start with the biggest news in the country, which is the much-awaited cabinet reshuffle by President Bola Tinubu. The president announced the scrapping of the Ministries of Niger Delta Development and Sports at the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting in Abuja. In other far-reaching decision made by the president, there will now be a Ministry of Regional Development to oversee all the regional development commissions, such as the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Northwest Development Commission, the Southwest Development Commission, and the Northeast Development Commission. The National Sports Commission will take over the role of the Ministry of Sports. The FEC also approved the merger of the Ministry of Tourism with the Ministry of Culture and Creative Economy. All right, let's bring the conversation home. Okay, let's start with BKO. BKO, can you hear me, BKO?
Yes, I can.
Yes, BKO is joining us right from the nation's capital, Abuja. So, BKO, let's start with this. 8 decisions made by the president regarding his cabinet reshuffle. But let me ask you, how far-reaching will you describe it?
Well, there are many Nigerians who would want a lot more. There are many Nigerians who would want the president to proceed from what he has done today to maybe 6 months from now, take another look at the ministers and do the needful. If you ask me, I was expecting something more far-reaching than this, but I also have to admit that some of the decisions he has taken in this regard sit well with me. So having a minister to oversee the affairs of the development commissions, the regional development commissions, is something that sits well with me.
Okay.
Somebody has to coordinate all of those commissions. So that is good enough. Merging the Ministry of Tourism with the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy is also something that sits well with me. I believe that we have far more ministries than we need, and as the government moves on, the president should show the courage to merge or scrap more ministries. We have far more ministries than we need. And when you look at the performance of these ministers, it does not justify having as many ministries as we have. The president has also taken a decision that many Nigerians were waiting for him to take, and that is appointing a substantive minister for humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation.
Okay.
Since the suspension of Beta Edu, Nigerians have been waiting, because at this time when a lot of vulnerable Nigerians need to be helped, the importance of that ministry cannot be overemphasized.
Yes.
Yes, the president has now named someone as minister, substantive minister for that ministry, which means the rumor mill that had been agog, that the president was desperate to bring back Beta Edu, despite all of the stories that we've read about how she moved money into private accounts and all that, has now been put to rest. This is a clear indication that the president listens. It will have been embarrassing for the government without a formal clearance of the minister that was suspended since January this year. 10 months after, without a formal clearance, it will have been terrible for the president to bring her back. Because Nigerians will ask questions.
Exactly.
So the president has taken a decision, putting closure to that matter. She's not coming back to that ministry. Someone else has taken over that ministry. Someone else has been appointed. So the president also decided to scrap the sports ministry and leave the National Sports Commission to do the job of the Sports Ministry. This is not the first time that will happen. We've had that situation in the past when the affairs of our sports were handled by the National Sports Commission. I pray that Sheikh Diko will be able to do the job that is been given at this time. Then, of course, he has nominated 7 new ministers and discharged 5 ministers. It's difficult to say that the president is wrong in discharging those ministers because quite a lot of Nigerians didn't think that those ministers had done enough to justify their appointment in the first place. So he allowed 5 of them to go, and he has also taken steps to strengthen the information ministry by bringing in Sunday Dare as special advisor to the president on public communication and national orientation under the Ministry of Information. So Sunday Dare will provide the much needed support that the current gentleman minister needs desperately, you know, because Sunday Dare is a good communicator, he's a journalist, that the rest of us is a professional. So he's coming in now, just the same way that Jumoke Ojuwole is coming in from the National Social Investment Authority to now serve as a minister in the Ministry of Trade. So we also have the reassignment of 10 ministers to new portfolios. As I've said, I want to see more rejigging done. It shouldn't even take a whole year to look at.
So you're looking at 6 months.
Indolent who are not doing well. Yes. It shouldn't take that long. You must constantly look at your ministers and ask yourself whether they are helping you. A lot of those ministers are even ashamed to publicly proclaim some of the achievements of the government.
Of the administration.
Know what the problem is with them. If you are reluctant to announce that this is what your government has done, then you have no business being in that administration. That means you are ashamed of the administration and you have no business staying for one more day.
I agree with you.
The president has taken a decision that we want him to take on a routine basis. Not simply leave us, wait for 10 months before you look at ministers who are not good enough, who have no business being in your cabinet. Some of them are, like I always say, some of them are birds of passage, and they actually deserve to go. So it's a good thing that this change has happened at this time. And I'm excited about Bianca Ono coming into the administration. He's a round peg in the round hole because she has served before in the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So you'll be bringing a wealth of experience. And I'm sure a lot of my friends, especially Dr. Abbas Adetunji in the U.S., who is a big admirer of Bianca Ono, will be happy with the appointment that the president has made, bringing in Bianca to strengthen the administration.
All right, then. All right, Dotun, let me come to you. Were you surprised by some of the ministries affected?
Well, I'm not, because not so many of us have been happy with the happenings in the government based on the promises and the deliveries. They are somewhat a bit far apart. And the only way to get it right is to rejig.
But really, what is responsible for this? I thought when they were coming in, there were promises.
Yes, there will be promises.
Then what happened along the way?
You see, I've seen one thing about governance in Nigeria. As the head of the team, you will have lofty ideas.
Okay.
But you need full soldiers to execute them. And in most cases, these are civil servants. And that is where the problems of most of these ministers start from.
Okay.
Unless you are very sure-footed, you are sure of yourself, you really know that this is the way I want to go, you are likely to get sucked into all these procedural stuffs and all the rest. one of those things you would have seen and which some Nigerians are shocked could happen has been this issue of issuance of international passports.
Talk about Ministry of Interior.
Interior. How did we suddenly come to the point where people can safely say, they've promised me 2 weeks, I'm going to get my passport, and you are getting it in 2 weeks? That shows some level of push, understanding that a few things could happen. There are other ministries like that you can say a few things have happened, and then you begin to look and ask yourself the question, what happened? How were these ministers able to push the civil servants around to achieve what they wanted, or the public servants? So for me, when you look at success outside of government, you must also now be able to match it with how you are going to become, because it requires a lot of skill and
competence here.
Competence, and then capacity to, it might be a wrong use of word, but ride roughshod over people, because you need a lot of this.
To swim through the murky waters.
You must be able to. Sometimes people come and say, President Bola Tinubu made a pronouncement and without consultation or whatever, and then sometimes you go back and you sit down. If this man or any other person in government had called a full-fledged meeting to say, we need to take this, you can imagine how long it will take to go through that process. Consultation is good, but sometimes when you get to the point of execution, that is where you find that if you are not careful, your ideas will die with you.
Oh, Dada. Now, the president, according to BK, the president has shown that he listens. Many Nigerians have been asking, when is this going to happen? Now it has happened. Your thoughts on this?
Well, again, we saw it coming. And
we saw it coming, yes.
We're not surprised. Because,
not surprised.
The president's spokesman told us some weeks back.
Yeah, some weeks back, yeah,
that
he did.
It was going to happen. Like my colleagues have said, it's a welcome development, although we expect something much better.
Were you surprised with some of the names?
No, none of them surprises me.
None of them?
No, none of them. None of them surprises, because many of these ministers that have been discharged are not even visible. We don't know what they are doing. You understand? And you judge by actions, by results. So we are still expecting more to happen. But let me just make a brief comment about some of the appointments or the reappointments. For example, when I was thinking, when the Southeast Development Commission was created, I think a thought came to my mind that, hey, are we going to have another minister for the Southeast? No, you have this Southeast Development Commission, you have Niger Delta Development Commission, you have Southwest, and all of that. So it only makes sense for there to be just one minister coordinating all of this.
The entire South.
You understand?
Okay, all of the
commissions. So you now have a minister of regional. I think it's a brilliant.
It's
a brilliant decision. I'm also excited about the appointment of Shehu Diko as to head National Sports Commission, because he's a well-known sports administrator.
Okay.
You understand? So I'm excited about it. I'm also happy that now we have a minister for labor, because since the man was there, Simon Lalong went to the Senate, and that place has been vacant. Also, the Ministry of Humanitarian
Affairs, yes.
Humanitarian Affairs, since Better Edu was suspended, yes. We've not had. I think that's a critical,
very critical,
very critical,
especially now.
It's a very critical ministry. We only hope that others will sit up, because they say that the death that kills your relative is a lesson to you.
It's a lesson.
Exactly. You understand? So people should learn, because ministers are there to serve. And one of the qualities that a minister must have is how to manage people. Now, like he said something which I normally tell people: civil servants have been there forever. Not every minister can not anybody who is appointed a minister can actually coordinate civil servants.
You must be able to step on toes.
Exactly. Look at a man like we may be seen as rambunctious, brash or whatever, but does it strike you as a minister that
you can
the
just
civil servants we can control, or you will give an instruction and
you won't do it,
even though they have been there like forever? You understand? So ministers must. It's not only being successful in your field. You may have headed an organization or something in the private sector, but coming to the public sector is a different ball game. It's a different ball game. So you must have that capacity to lead. You must be a go-getter. You must have competence. You must have the will. So let's see how it goes. But we know that many of these ministers have not performed. There are more that have not performed in my own view.
So you think more should still go? Okay,
except they want to sit up.
All right, let me ask BKO. BKO, are you still there?
Yeah.
BKO, should we be expecting more names?
That is my wish.
That is your wish?
That is my wish.
And even mine.
Yes, and I hope this president will do what I want in this regard. Because what I want in this regard is best for our nation. He has to take another look at this unwieldy list of ministers and ask himself whether they are living up to expectation. Adiza Bala Usman has been rating these ministers since the inception of this administration.
Yes.
And I can tell you that I know that even Adiza is embarrassed by the fact that some of those ministers don't even know why they are in government. Some of them don't know the full ramifications of the portfolios that they've been given. And if you critically assess them over the last 1 year, if not, a good number of them have not done great. So they deserve to go. There are still ministers left who deserve to go.
There are still some ministers that still deserve to go.
Yes, I say this without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, that there are still ministers in this cabinet that deserve to go. What I advise the president to do is, there are those that you can keep for political reasons.
Okay.
I'm not saying those who are useful politically that you have to let them go. What you can do is give them a portfolio where
ministries,
their weaknesses may not be so manifest.
Okay.
So that they can remain in the cabinet and remain useful to you politically. The president is a fantastic political animal. I cannot, at this point, be teaching him what to do. I know that you keep some people in government for the political value that they possess. So you have to balance things. Look at those ones that you've given them some portfolios, they've let you down. Can you find less demanding portfolios, put them there because they are useful to you politically? He has to find that balance. There is no point keeping people who are not useful, who are not even prepared to stand on the rooftops and talk about the achievements of the administration. You have ministers who are tongue-tied. We chase them all around to come and even talk about the achievements of their government. I've never seen a set of ministers like this. And I'm not ashamed to say it.
But BKO, when
so if you cannot talk, if you are reluctant to even talk about the administration that you serve, come on, what is the matter with you? Why are you in that administration? And that is simply to make up the numbers. That's what it is. Why are you ashamed to talk about the achievements of the administration? And I know that even the Minister of Information has been on their case. He's been pushing and pushing for some of these ministers to come out and talk about the administration, about their achievements. They have achievements, but they are tongue-tied. They can't even talk about the achievement. What kind of ministers are those ones? If you are ashamed to be identified with an administration that has given you a job to do, then you have no business remaining there. That means you are not loyal. That means you are a bird of passage.
Bird of passage. All right, BK, you said something earlier talking about this minister. But the thing is, when these ministers actually came on board, You know, they came with lofty promises that they were going to deliver. But what happened along the way? Is it politics? Is it competence? What happened?
There are serious capacity issues. There are serious capacity issues. You will never know
serious capacity issues.
that some people are not good enough until you've entrusted them with a big responsibility. It happens. Even in our newsroom, people function at different levels. There are some people that when you have big assignments, you don't look in their direction. That is true. And what happens then? It then looks like you're overworking some people. It is not deliberate, but no leader wants to fail. When you give responsibility to far more people than others, you overwork those competent ones.
Okay.
Yes. So that is the natural thing.
All right, BK.
BK knows what I'm talking about because he knows what it means to run a newsroom.
Exactly.
The boys who bring gospel stories, we always go to them. They're always the ones that we rely on. Why some people are there, they collect salary, but they don't give as much as others. That is the same thing in this cabinet. There are those who are doing well. There are those who are never do well. It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Way.
All right, BK.
Describe them.
All right, let me start with you, Dotson. The delicate balance between competence and politics. The president needs to strike it. How should it go? Where do you think the president will decide? Which should hold more ground? Competence or politics in the area of the ministers?
Well, in a climate like ours, you must, balance both, at least for now.
Balance in the area of 50-50, 60-40?
For now, because the president is in his first term. If he wants a second term.
So the politics should take a bit of
politics must also play a part.
Now,
if you go back some years when President Olusegun Obasanjo was in power, you will see that the critical decisions, some of those very critical decisions he took, they were in his second term. They weren't in the first. Because at the time he was looking at, I'm going to get a second term, he also did not need some of the things that happened in his second term to happen. That's what you see with a lot of governors. That was also what a lot of people were expecting will play out in a place like Rivers, where the governor is now at loggerheads with this. You know, if you go to some other states, you will see that before that fight will become serious, the incumbent will be sure of a second term. And that's what they do. And for me, because of the dire situation in which Nigeria is now, that is why we are now urging the president to move very fast.
To look at more competence.
Look at more at competence now. Because if Nigeria doesn't get out of where it is now and step up a bit, no matter the level of politicking he plays with the composition of his cabinet, the second term can be sure.
Okay.
The way we are, where we are now with our Naira, the instability in the foreign exchange market, with
inflation and all
everything combining. Inflation is rising, interest rates going up, and then it's
a lot of things.
Something that the president needs to sit down and look at. And that is why some of us were expecting that even the economic team would have been touched, would have been shaken a bit, to send a very strong signal that the president is also very concerned about their being able to make the economy work. As it is now, for most of us, despite the fact that we don't understand the nitty-gritty of the Naira and Kobo, we know as laymen that the economy is not working. And it is not getting any better than when the government came into power. Because if it was any better, at least even if it is in the Naira to the dollar, we should have seen a bit more value. Rather, it's crashing. 1,700 naira plus now. Because nobody will come and tell me now that we should use the official exchange rate as a yardstick to measure how well the naira is doing. Even at the official, it's still about 1,600.
Exactly.
So the difference is in the region of about 100.
Yes.
And for me,
not good enough.
I don't think our naira should be at that level.
Should be at that level.
We shouldn't at all. We're a great country.
True.
We have potential.
True.
But can we unleash those potentials? These are the people we are waiting on to do it for us.
All right. We're pressed for time, but most of these ministers, when they came in at first, they came with lofty ideas, promises that they would do it. Obikeo said something very critical, that you don't know someone until you give them an assignment.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of people talk tough. They are very good speakers, talkers. You know, they can say anything, make promises, but sometimes the realities of their responsibility might actually show whether they are up to the task. I think what has actually happened with many of these ministers, it may not have been that they didn't even want to work. You understand? But what they faced, they did not anticipate, and they don't have the will or the capacity to actually handle the realities that have confronted them. And since they are not there for jamboree, they are not there to, they are there to serve. And so if they're not delivering, let them go. So that's what has happened. And we want more of this to happen. Sorry, if I may quickly comment on the balance between
competence and politics.
I think it depends on the priority of the president. If the president believes that politics is more important to him than delivering good governance, then the balance will tilt the way of politics. But I think that what matters more for Nigerians is that we have good governance. It's only those who are living in alternate reality that will say things are getting better for the people. What is happening now is that cost is soaring while people's personal income, personal revenue is dwindling. And as people are getting poorer since this. Let's not pretend.
Yeah, see the situation.
You understand? The reforms, now if you call them reforms, but these reforms have side effects. Painful side effects. Yeah. And so whatever whoever can help the president to ameliorate the sufferings of the people,
the president should bring that person on board.
Not politics. I'm not saying that we can't rule out politics. Ike said something the other time. That maybe if there are people that are political heavyweights, but they are not performing, you could give them some positions that are not critical. I don't want to mention names, but I know.
You know, at the end of the day, performance will get a lot of people swayed to be on your side.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah. Performance will do. So it will now go beyond the politicking.
Exactly.
Because if you use the better part of your time to do politics, or you allow this preparation for the next regime or the next election to determine, then the naira will keep falling the way we are seeing it.
I agree.
And there will be a lot of things going wrong.
I agree with you. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen.